Welcome back. I'd like to talk now a little bit more about the relationships. We've looked quite a bit here so far at the relationship between Naomi and Ruth. I'd like to add the third person in the relationship triangle, and that's God. Um, all Old Testament scholars will tell you that the hero in every book of the Bible is God. And oftentimes God doesn't have an actual role in the sense of a speaking part. And that's the case in the book of Ruth. God does not actually speak or divinely intervene in quite a dramatic way of a theophany, but God certainly is a character in this book, a player in this book. So let's unpack these relationships just a little bit more. We've seen in the relationship between Naomi and Ruth the depth of their love. I can't emphasize enough the things that Ruth says, the commitment that she makes, and to take on the God of another. Um, Someone I was talking about this with recently said Naomi had been teaching Ruth about her God, and Ruth wanted to stay with that God. Right. So that came out of that beautiful friendship. And they both, are caring for each other in that first chapter, in that first description. Naomi wants the good prospects for her daughters-in-law. Go get married, be protected by a man, be able to have children. She has concern for deep love for Ruth and Orpah. And then you also have the deep love of Ruth that she professes and carries out by traveling back to Bethlehem with Naomi. We that's that. I just want to say one final point, that relationship is visible. The love there is visible to others. So it's the townsfolk, the women who declare at the end, your daughter-in-law is better than 7 sons. Others see this. Naomi and God have a clear relationship. Naomi's quite frank about the situation. She is not happy with God there at the beginning of the story. But then, Naomi lives in a righteous way. She lives according to the covenant, and God gradually rebuilds her life for her in the pattern that we so often see in the Old Testament. And so by the end of the book, when the baby is born, when Obed is born, the women, again, the chorus there in this story, say to Naomi, "Blessed be the Lord, who has not left you this day without next of kin." Right? They name the gift God is giving her. May his name, Obed's name, be renowned in Israel. He shall be to you a restorer of life and a nourisher of you in your old age. So again, right? God's more than loved up Naomi in so many ways. And I love Naomi's response. She doesn't sing any kind of song or make any kind of speech. She simply takes the child onto her bosom and nurses him. She becomes part of raising him and supporting him, and maybe also teaching him about God and loving him in the ways that she had loved the young Ruth and the young Orpah. So beautiful relationship there that grows and develops. And right, sometimes that's what we do when God overwhelms us. We can just simply respond with love back again. The last side of the triangle I'd like to look at is the relationship between God and Ruth. Ruth never speaks to or about God in the book, except in her promise to take Naomi's God as her own. So that's a very powerful statement there. And then Ruth chooses to follow the covenant, right? Think about this. She cares for the widow, doesn't she? And she cares for the alien. She loves Naomi and is faithfully supporting her when they live in Moab. And then the moment they get back and are welcomed back into the community at Bethlehem, Ruth goes to work. She goes to work at the barley fields and the wheat fields, and gathers enough food then for the two of them to live. So she's not just worrying about herself. She takes care of the widow and the poor in a beautiful sort of way. She honors the levirate marriage laws. She is modest. She is hardworking. She lives the covenant in a beautiful way. And God, who is silent throughout the book, as I mentioned, blesses Ruth in great abundance with a home, a husband, dignity, safety, a future for her son, through her son, and also a place within the chosen people. And a place as the great grandmother of the greatest king, no less. I mean, so tremendous honor and dignity that God gives to Ruth. So I'd like to now look a little bit further at the beauty of that relationship and talk about a term, a biblical term, Hesed. Move out of the way here. Hesed is a word that appears several times in the story. I don't read Hebrew, so I'm just being told this from commentaries, but Hesed appears throughout the Old Testament. It's a word that's translated a lot of different ways because none of them quite captures the full essence of the word. Hesed can mean steadfast love, faithfulness, kindness, mercy, loyalty, favor, or devotion. So those are all the different ways it's translated. When it's discussed on a human plane, right, because of course that's where people first experience Hesed, it's in an interpersonal relationship, a one-on-one encounter, and a response in kind is expected. If I show you Hesed, you should show me Hesed back again. It's not some sort of abstract feeling, oh, I love everybody, but it's practical action. I show Hesed for an actual person and I take action on behalf of them. I need to actually not just say I like Fred, I actually take care of Fred. It's enduring. The word, and some of those translation words up there try to capture that endurance, right? Steadfast, faithful, loyal. It lasts, it's got to last. And that refers both to the fact that God consistently requires that of Israelites. And it also refers to the endurance of the longevity of the commitment that you must build into relationships. For Jews, your relationships are covenants. They're not contractual. I do this for you. And then when we both have satisfied the contract, it's over. It's a permanent commitment. It has this longevity to it that involves care for the other person. Covenant requires Hesed. When we talk about Hesed on a divine level, we are talking about something a bit of a different magnitude, of a different nature. It first appears in the book of Exodus, not first appears, but it most powerfully appears in the book of Exodus when God tells Moses how God names God's self. And God says, I am the Lord, a God merciful and gracious, slow to anger and abounding in Hesed and faithfulness, keeping steadfast love or Hesed for the 1,000th generation, forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin. So when God has Hesed, it's on an interpersonal relationship. It can be between me and God. But God's Hesed is for the entire Israelite people. We also find instances throughout the Old Testament referring to God having Hesed for all of humanity, for all of creation, all of nature. In fact, God's Hesed fills the earth. Psalm 33 tells us you can find the word Hesed liberally used throughout the Psalms. When we're talking about God being able to show Hesed on such a grand scale, mutuality can no longer be expected. I can't offer the same depth of Hesed back to God that God offers to me. However, divine Hesed, that practical side of it remains. God shows Hesed for us in practical ways, like we see in the book of Ruth, providing food, providing an heir. And God's Hesed also has that enduring quality to it. Now, scripture tells us if God shows us Hesed, our response, the appropriate response back is to remember that, to hope and trust in it, to proclaim it with singing and rejoicing. So there's the book of Ruth's answer to how we deal with adversity. We remember that God faithfully loves us. We hope and trust in this faithful love. And we proclaim it. We make it part of our prayer. We sing and we rejoice, even when we do not feel like singing and rejoicing. We continue to do that because that's the best way to respond. That's what God is hoping back from us. Now, on another level of the meaning of this, or another implication of it, is that when God's Hesed intersects with our human life, that Hesed is going to transform it. We'll have new relationships formed with those around us as God's goodness pours through us. So I think that's what we see in terms of Naomi and Ruth. they are able to love each other in the way that they do because God's Hesed fills them. And so Ruth can make the incredible commitment she makes as a young woman. Naomi can open her home in the beautiful way she did to those awful Moabite daughters-in-law, and then continue to be caring and concerned for them throughout her own suffering. So that impacts, the divine Hesed impacts our life and our interactions with others. So I'm going to ask you to do a little reflection now. You can pause here so you can see what these reflection questions are, or write them down, or just sit with them on your screen. But I'd like you to tie this back to how God is showing you Hesed in the friendships that you have now. So spend some time journaling or just quietly reflecting on a friend who chose you, excuse me, as Ruth chose Naomi, and who brought you to a place of security in a similar way. List your friends' qualities. Reflect on how you grew closer to God as a result of their care and faithful love for you. And how did your experience help you to become more of a caring person?